A big round of applause for MCs, by the way, because they never got one there. Thank you very much for looking after us. Hello, everybody. We're almost there. What a fantastic conference. One more talk, and then you get to go home. I'm Barry Pollard. I work in the Google Chrome team. I have some Chrome dinosaurs, by the way. Who likes Chrome Dino? Anyone? Anyone?
Oh, wow.
Oh, anyone else? Right, try and go all the way to the back. Oh, that's not going to work. I'll do some short ones. Oh, I think that's some. Oh, one more. Ooh. Oh. There we go. That'll wake you up a bit. So I work with the various development teams, including Lighthouse, the Chrome User Experience Report, DevTools, and a couple of other ones, and also with the Chrome engineers. And I get to come to conferences, I guess, and tell you about some of the APIs that they're working on to make your development easier. And in my case, I'm very focused on web performance, so I want to talk about how we can make your development or your pages faster. So, quick show of hands here. Hands up. Anyone? Nobody? Oh, that was annoying, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, you weren't expecting that. Yeah, the slow web is painful. Nobody likes it. It's annoying when you get a white screen. It's even more annoying when something's there and you've got a taste of that website, but it's still not loading. And we want to look and see what we can do about this. So in Google Chrome, we launched the Core Web Vitals initiative a few years back. Hands up, who's heard of the Core Web Vitals initiative? This isn't a trick question. Oh, surprisingly few. That's quite disappointing. These are 3 metrics to measure user experience on the web. And the one that we're going to talk about most today is LCP, or Largest Contentful Paint. This is a measure of how quickly you get the main content onto your page. And we, as well as come out with these metrics, came out with thresholds. And we said 2.5 seconds, that can be seen as a good page load. Anything beyond 4 seconds is pretty poor. Somewhere in between is kind of needs improvement. But the reality is 2.5 seconds is actually quite a long time. If you click on a link, 1, 2, and then you start getting content, that can actually feel quite slow. So my question is, can we do better than good? And more specifically, how can we get instant? How can we get 0 seconds? Rather than just looking to get 2.5 seconds, or if you're at 2.6, just getting under there. How can we just get it that the page is just instantly there? But websites have an inherent slowness. Your browser has to go all the way to a web server, has to ask for some content, and then it's got to come all the way back. And in fact, it's not even as simple as it shows here. There's many requests, and those requests often don't have a straight route. They go through all sorts of other routers and servers and whatever, TCP boxes and that sort of thing, to eventually get there before they come back. It's amazing that anything ever actually gets to your web browser at all. So for other bits of software, you typically download it, you go to an app store, you download it, everything's on your phone, and it's maybe getting a little bit of data, but the main content's there. For PC software on your desktop, again, you download it. Maybe you're still on CD-ROMs or whatever, but you're installing it on the machine and it's there. But the web's got this inherent slowness where you expect to go there, having maybe never been there before, and still get content fairly quickly. SPAs, there's one attempt to work around this, in that once you've got the app loaded, you can start getting instant page navigations to all the other routes of that page. However, they have a major problem. SPAs often take quite a long while to actually boot up and load. You're basically paying that front up cost for some hopefully faster performance later. Who knows what SPA stands for? Spinner Page Apps, that's correct. Honestly, now this is going to be an old reference, so some of you might not get it, and there's a bit of flashing image here if you don't like that. It reminds me a bit of growing up in the 80s, for anyone that had a Spectrum ZX and had to wait for ages for the game to actually load up there. At least they had funkier, more colourful loading screens. So it's a real step back. And even once you've got the content there, to do that SPA stuff, the browser's got to do quite a bit of work. It's got to execute all that JavaScript. It's got to do style and layout. It's got to do paint. It's got to composite. All these different steps that the browser gets before a single pixel shows on the screen. Some frameworks are moving increasingly towards server-side render, which is fantastic. They're actually giving HTML and CSS, the native language that the browser speaks, to there to do that. But it's basically a picture frame when it first comes down. It's do not touch. Nothing will work. You can look at it, you can't touch. And then a few seconds later, the app hydrates and things and interactive start work. And that can be very frustrating as well when you're clicking on that hamburger menu and it's not opening, or you're clicking that button that's not doing anything, and you've clicked it a few times, and then suddenly 3 items get added to your cart instead of the 1 item that you wanted. So to deliver instant loading, we need to be less reliant on both the network and the client-side processing. And my question is, how can the browser help with this? Because we could invent another JavaScript framework that does this, and we've tried many, and we're doing that. And there's some amazingly innovative stuff going on there. The CrUX team seem to be solving it quite well with a small payloads and then lazy loading stuff later. But surely this sort of stuff should be built into web browsers, and the web browser should be able to help you with this, rather than you have to work around what the web browser does. So I'm going to give a few options that we've been working on in the Chrome team. The first one is reuse existing page loads. If you've done all the work on it, don't throw away on that work. So there's this part of the browser called the back-forward cache, or the BF cache. What it does is, whenever you navigate to a page, let's say you're going to a news website, you click on an article to read it, instead of just throwing away that article, it will keep it around in memory for a few minutes afterwards. You read the article, you then go back, boom, you have the instant page load of the previous page that you're on. You can then click another article. You can maybe go forward again and say, oh, actually, there was something I meant to take down from that article that I forgot. And again, rather than you having to re-render all that stuff, because as I say, even if you've got all the assets in your HTTP cache and it's already there, it still takes a while to execute that JavaScript, put all those pixels on the screen and stuff like that. You may think this isn't very much usage. I mean, how much back and forth do we do? A surprisingly a large amount. This is from a few years ago, so it seems to have gone down a little bit here on desktop and up on mobile, if I'm correct. But roughly, our usage data shows that 1 in 10 navigations on desktop and about 1 in 5, that's 20% of navigations on mobile, are either back or forward. So if we can improve these, you improve a significant volume of your traffic. Not everything, but enough to actually make a meaningful difference to the users on your website. And this video is going to show you exactly the difference that you can see with it. So on the left, we've got back-forward cache turned off. On the right, turned on. On the right, turned off. And you can see here, we're on TechCrunch. We go to the BBC website. It's on a simulated slow connection, so it takes a little while and loads, and they're both pretty much the same. But when we go back, you can see on the left, you've got that instant loading experience. On the right, it's having to re-render everything, maybe get some stuff that wasn't allowed to be in the cache. And similarly, you're like, actually, I forgot something in that article. Let's go forward again. Boom, instant on the left. And this is something the browsers give you for free. So why not use this? The only caveat, this is a quote from a guy called Barry Pollard. Can you believe the speaker that comes up and quotes himself? Oh, God. Anyway, this is an article I wrote just before I joined Google last year. I said, I honestly believe that sites that are ineligible for the back-forward cache are giving up free web performance to their users and making passing the core web vitals needlessly tough on themselves. I say, this is for free, it's on by default, but there's certain APIs that you can use, and I'll explain some of these later, that the browser says, it's a bit dangerous to restore from the back-forward cache, I won't use it. I'll throw it away, and I'll just re-render the entire page again. So if you're using those in your websites, then you're not able to benefit from this free performance gain. We've put in some stuff. Oh, I must say, Chrome was very late to this, by the way. We only released this about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, coming out one. Safari and Firefox have the exact same thing, slight different nuances, but pretty much the same thing. They've had it for a long time. Chrome was late to it. But when we eventually got around to doing it, we've given you a few more tools that the other browsers don't to try and help you. Hopefully these browsers will also be roughly in line with what these tools will be roughly in line with what the other browsers are doing. First up, we have a test in Chrome DevTools. I'll actually just very quickly show you. It's quite simple. First live demo, scary. If you just load up any website, this is the website I work on, You can go down in the application tab to the back forward cache, and of course it doesn't work. My goodness. Oh, there we go. Oh, fun and games. And you can just test it. What it'll do is it'll navigate to another page. I think it's chrome.about or something like that. And then it'll navigate back, and it will tell you if it hasn't, if it's been successful or not. And if you're using one of those APIs that I mentioned, but doesn't allow it to happen, it will tell you here. So CNN is using unload handlers in both the mainframe and the subframe, and that's stopping this back-forward cache from doing it. Takes a second to do that test. So if you haven't done that test on your website before, have a look now and see if there's a bit more explanation in some of them, and see if you can actually solve these. One word warning is try this in an incognito mode, because some Chrome extensions can also inject stuff into your page that prevents this. LastPass is really annoying because they do use an unload handler. So trying without extensions to actually see that. But here you can see, okay, I'm using this API, figure out why it is, do I still need it, is it beneficial or is it not, or will we just get rid of it? Lighthouse also shows it if you're on the Lighthouse test. It'll give the exact same reasons, so it's one of the many audits that we show in Lighthouse to actually help you improve your page performance. You can also measure it in the field with an API. So if there's certain pages that use weird and funky APIs and you haven't forgotten about them, you can measure this, you can look at this and go, oh, actually, that really important app page that I didn't test because I only tested the home page is blocked for various reasons. As I say, the two most common reasons are using unload handlers. So whenever you go away from the page, you do some cleanup work and stuff like that. They're very bad for lots of reasons, and I have a post in the next slide that will talk to you about it. Or the other thing is cache control, no store. So cache control, no store is a very strong signal to the browser saying, this is super critical that you do not ever show this again. That may make sense if there's sensitive data in it, banking details, personal medical details, and stuff like that. If it's your blog site or your homepage for your company website, I really doubt that it's that important. Even if you put a small cache control time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, you'll be able to benefit from this from people browsing around your website. Upload handlers is worth a talk. There's this post that I put out nearly 2 months ago. We are going to be getting rid of these in Chrome. Safari's basically already got rid of it. They kind of half work, they kind of don't. We're going to try and make them not work at all. So if you are using those, and that's the reason to do it, you really need to look into this because it's going to stop working. You can also bring forward that. There's a certain bit of an HTTP header that you can put on your website, say, I don't care if you're using an unload handler, I don't use it here. And that can help with the extension problem, that LastPass issue I was talking about, and make sure that your website's still eligible. Right, okay. Some of you might be saying, that's a bit of a cheat. That's just restoring previous page loads. That's not an instant page load like you promised, Barry. How dare you? This is disgraceful. I'm walking out. So let's talk about something else. Instant option number 2 is about improving future page views. So that's where you want to work ahead of the user and try and give them what you think they're going to need in advance. And there's basically 2 options you can do that. There's a number of different routes, but they all fall into this. Prefetch is about trying to get those resources earlier, so that's dealing with that network error. And then pre-render is one step further than that. As well as fetching the resource, is actually getting the browser to render the entire page in the background. So it's also dealing with that front-end issue of executing the JavaScript and everything up until painting the pixels. Prefetch can be done with a service worker. Whenever it installs, it will prefetch a lot of the resources that it needs. SPAs can prefetch, and a lot of them do. I say normally there's that upfront hit to get that. And even then, a lot of SPAs I find, you're like promised this upfront hint, but it's worth it because you can go to the next page, it will be instant. But then you click on something and it goes and makes a JSON call rather than an HTML call, and it takes ages to render the page anyway. So I ask, what's the point? But anyway, probably shouldn't say that at the JavaScript conference. The other thing is you can just put this little bit of code. I think Michael mentioned it earlier. You can put a prefetch in there. So there's quite a few of these pre-things. So preload is normally about this page. Prefetch is about the next page. It's fetched as low priority to make sure that you don't interrupt this page. But it basically says, I'm going to need this soonish, not now, but soonish. Go ahead and get it and make it faster. And there's this new API called speculation rules that I want to talk about. So for example, use case here is, this is from my old company. I used to work in an Irish healthcare company. We had a member area, you could log into it there. That was a small single-page app. and we kept that deliberately small, so it loaded pretty quickly. And while people are typing in their username and password or getting it from their password manager and stuff like that, you can see we prefetch all the extra resources we're going to need on the bigger app of the actual member area, which makes that pretty fast to go with. Prefetch is pretty good support. Safari, for some reason, has had it behind a flag for 4 years, and I've seen no indication that they're ever going to turn it off. My advice to them is either, or get off the pot, either just take it away or enable it. It really annoys me whenever you see it that. But all the other browsers support it, pretty much so. It's quite good to use that. But what prefetch can help with performance, doesn't get that instant page, that I hooked you in with my clickbait title of the talk here. So to do that, we really need to look at pre-render. Similarly, it's got two options. There is a link rel pre-render, and it's got speculation rules. Now, I've got to say, for this sort of stuff, the support is basically Chromium only. So that's Chrome, Edge, Opera, all those sorts of browsers. Safari and Firefox don't support these yet, and I don't think they will in the near future. So you really need to think of this as an optional enhancement that can help the browsers that support it. The other thing about link rel pre-render, other than the missing quote marks, is that it doesn't actually pre-render anymore. So we had lots of issues with this. It was very memory heavy, it was buggy, it wasn't fully spec'd out and that sort of thing. So a few years back, we changed this to what we call no-state prefetch. So rather than doing that full render, executing the JavaScript and stuff like that, what it does is you give it a web page, it will just run through the web page, get all the resources that are in the HTML, and if they're hidden in JavaScript or in CSS sheets, it won't get those. But it'll get all the other resources there. So you can think of it more like a super prefetch now. So if you're using this in your website at the minute and you're thinking it does lots of pre-render stuff, excuse me, it doesn't anymore. But we've spent the last couple of years, and we're bringing pre-render back. So we have a new API called the Speculation Rules API, which rather than a link rel header, we put it in as a JSON object that you can add to your page. This can be by default in your page, or it can be added dynamically by JavaScript, either on hydration or on if you hover over a link, or if you've got some reason to believe that someone's going to go to another page, you can put there. This is the simplest sort of speculation rules. So we sit there, you give a number. I have a very funky clicker here. You put in a source. We're going to say it's a list of URLs, and you put the URLs themselves in there and say, I want to pre-render next. I want to pre-render next too. Again, the browser will concentrate on this page first, and will only do this whenever it gets this page fully loaded and it's got a bit more free time. You can also use this for prefetch if you want to use some of the funkier stuff that I'm going to talk about here, and you want to experiment first before you get into pre-rendering, because pre-rendering can be a bit more resource intensive. If your pages are actually changing things, then maybe you don't want to pre-render. Now, most of them, we only pre-render get pages, which should be safe, but if your JavaScript is doing something funky. Which is what leads on to the new thing that we're playing with, automatic link finding or document rules. So this one's a bit more complicated. We still say pre-render. Rather than a source of list, we say a source of document. And we have a where clause here, and we're saying where, and there's two, it's an and there's two clauses here. If the href matches this, it's a bit more complicated than I'd like, and we're working on that. That's to make sure it includes any URL parameters, any hash parameters, and that sort of thing. So it's basically every page that doesn't match logged in or whatever. So if you've got a list of pages that you don't want to pre-render, but you want to pre-render everything else. I've also said eagerness moderate. That means it's going to run through the document, find all the links, and they have to be real links here, by the way, ahref, and not some weird JavaScript data link. It will find those, add them as candidates to pre-render. And what moderate says it will do is it will pre-render whenever you hover or mouse down on the link. So this is an Origin trial at the minute. You can sign up for an Origin trial. You get a token back automatically. You can put it on your website, and you can test it out and play with it and that sort of thing. We're going to do a demo, because we are using this Origin trial on web.dev. So if I go to web.dev, and I go into, we have a load of preloads here, this preload panel. So if I reload this, so if I hover over any link, so I'm hovering over the blog, you saw on the top right there, that it's got /blog, it's ready. So now that page, as soon as I click on that, it's instantly loaded. Effectively what this does is it loads the page in a hidden background tab, and then whenever you click on it, it swaps it in with the current page. And you've got it there. We've got, you can sit there and do it. There is a limit. It will only pre-render up to 10 pages, and then at that point it will say, hey, you guys don't know what you want. I'm just going to let it render as normally. But yeah, any of those will sit there and do it. I have patterns in as a control at the moment. So there, I don't know whether you noticed it. The Wi-Fi is quite fast here, but there was a flash, and this is a very fast website, by the way. I look after it. So there's a bit of flash there because it wasn't pre-rendered. But if we slow down the network, then we can, so sorry, back to the application tab. Yeah, so if case studies is instant, but if I go to patterns, actually, have I turned caching off? Well, even with caching on, yeah, you can see definitely a delay there. And you as developers might be on super fast hardware and lovely big MacBook Pros that are fantastic and great Wi-Fi, but a lot of your users won't be. And I know myself, whenever you're in a train in the middle of the country, it's really frustrating and stuff like that. So working ahead of the user can at least deal with those issues ahead of time. Now, then again, you might add, okay, but none of those fix the first page load. You're cheating again, Barry. All you're doing is basically what SPAs do, is that you kind of are looking at the next page. How can we fix the first page load? Well, that one, you can't. There's nothing you can do because you haven't loaded it. You can fix future ones with service workers and that sort of thing, but for the very first page, you can't do anything. However, we can. So the browser can actually do this. What we have is if you go into Chrome, there's a URL, Chrome predictors. Now, hopefully this isn't going to show anything. I cleared it out really while ago. It's not going to show my dodgy history. So these are websites that I've gone to recently. The ones in green are saying, once I start typing those words, we are pretty damn confident that you're going to go to that page, based on what you've been using in the URL directory. Ones in amber, it's like, maybe. So if I look here, and I don't have my glasses, oh God, there we go. So if I type in web, it's pretty confident I'm going to web.dev. So if I try this and I do web, it auto-completes it for me, and then it will also pre-render it, and whenever I click there, you get an instant page load. And if I look here in the console, you can actually type, for start, an LCP of 71 milliseconds. I don't know how many of you know what LCP is and look at that, but that is basically impossible. So that's all because of the pre-render. And if I call, there's an API to get the navigation from the performance timeline, and you can ask for the activation start. So what this says is basically 5 seconds since the page was loaded, I went to it. That's what I was talking to you, so it pre-rendered, it was ready 5 seconds earlier, and then I clicked on it, and it was already instantly loaded there. So that's there. I say for the yellow ones, it will prefetch, because it will say, not sure it's you, we'll go ahead and prefetch it, and if you type more and it turns out to be that, then we'll convert that to a pre-render, but for the minute we're not sure. So have a look at your own browsers, Chrome / predictors, and you'll probably see a lot of the websites that you're used to and you're using a lot, GitHub, whatever, that you there, and you'll be like, okay. So you may not have noticed that before, but sometimes when you're typing things, the page just loads instantly, and that's the browser helping with that. But you might ask, okay, why am I so obsessed with this instant 2 seconds? Is that really that bad? Why is it got to be 0.2 seconds, Barry? I think it unlocks new options for web developers. So, for example, view transitions. Has anyone heard of view transitions here? Okay, some of the speakers at the front are on the buzz, finger on the pulse. View transitions is a very funky API, and I've had lots of problems with this demo, by the way, so if this doesn't work, blame me. So the view transitions demo, this is a demo stolen from Jake, who I used to work with. He sadly left us for someone better. What it does is you can sit there and explain between 2 pages or 2 routes on an app and say, I want this. If you click on here, I want this image to transform into that. So rather than having some heavy JavaScript library to do that, you can get the browser to do that. So if I click on this, it can expand. and say, okay, I've taken the old page and I've taken the new page and I've figured out what way, or you've told me some hints about what I want to do to it there. At the minute, this is available in Chrome Live. I've got positive signals from both Firefox and Safari, so I'm hoping they're going to start implementing soon. It's only available on the same page at the minute, so you can use this in your SPA navs for route changes and stuff like that. But what we're looking at next is to do this on multi-page apps, or as I like to call them, web pages. And there it gets a bit more complicated. So if I load this, and please work this time, because the demo was having lots of fun earlier. Again, this is a pretty fast website for this demo, so I'm going to slow it down. And if I click on this web page, it's paused, it's sitting there, it's waiting, it's loading that page in the background, and then it's doing that transition. And you kind of lose a bit of the magic feel of it. You're clicking on something, and it takes so long to actually do it. What's the point in doing a nice, smooth animation? Because everyone's just sitting there going, it doesn't feel smooth, it doesn't feel like nice and stuff like that. So that's where things like pre-render can really help with. So I have another demo. Actually, oh, there we go. And again, it's using the same speculation rules, that origin trial. So if I hover over it, where has my application tab gone? Let me, hold on a second. Oh, because I didn't have DevTools open. Just to be a little bit faster, I'm going to turn off that throttling again. Okay, turn it on. Okay, so again, we've got all these URLs that it's found, and if I hover over this one, sorry, there's loads of URLs here, you can see that's ready. And now, whenever I click on it, hopefully, you get that instant thing. Now, this is a completely separate web page. It's not an SPA, but it's got a very SPA-like feel to it. So this can really start to make us think, do we need these SPAs? Do we need these heavy frameworks to do some of these funky animations that we've used them for in the past? There's lots of other good reasons to use SPA, state, and that sort of thing. But having an option to do this with pure web pages, or between different, if you've got different SPAs on the website, I mentioned my previous job, we had the login page as a different app to the actual main app and there, stuff like that. So you can now connect these, which brings, and that's just one of the things that we can do with this sort of instant page navigation. And that's pretty much all I've got. That was the video in case it didn't work. Yeah. So those are the ways to get instant page navigation. Back forward cache, make sure that you're eligible. As I say, we are by default. Pre-render with speculation rules, that's something you have to inject, even if it's a rule to say, go and figure out these sorts of things, or pre-rendering by the browser. And thank you very much for that, and I hope it was useful.